What's going on, guys? How we doing? It's just me today. Mav coming for you. How's everybody doing? Where's everybody coming in from? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a quick one. I just wanted to kind of address the overall market and what's been going on over this past week and why I just don't really care about what's going on with the price right now and some of the fear that's going on right now. I think this is a great opportunity, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So, what we got? Hey there. So much for the comments, guys. It's like I love reading through them. Yeah, Doc's off today. It's just me. I'm a little bit sick right now, but I want to make this stream anyways for you guys because I feel like we need to talk. California, hey, here in my backyard. Houston, Texas. I love that place. East Coast, all right, all right. Holland, awesome. Yeah, I was just in Philly. All right, awesome, guys. Cool. All right, let's get started. So, yeah, I wanted to just quickly address a lot of the fear that's going on right now, a lot of the anxiety that's percolating through the market right now, because I just feel like it's pretty unjustified. I mean, let's honestly talk about why the market's sort of selling off right now. Gonna do a little bit. Oh, nope. I normally Doc runs these streams, so I'm still getting my feet wet with all this stuff. Depression. Oh, that's where you are. Oh man. Yeah. So let's talk about what's going on with Bitcoin because that's what everybody wants to talk about, right? Um, it's honestly, I think where we are right now is such an opportune time and such an interesting time in the overall crypto space because what is about to undergo, what's happening right now, I think is totally oversold, totally overblown. And man, someone's calling me right now. I told them to not do that. So yeah, we'll get to questions in a little bit here, guys. But I just want to make sure we run through this little PowerPoint. It's going to take 5-10 minutes. I know it's the least interesting thing to talk about or talk over. We're trying to work on a better format to present information to you guys, but this is where we are right now. What's going on with Bitcoin? Let's get started. So yesterday or the last couple days, this is what you've seen, right? Just fear, absolute, undeniable fear. It's terrible, right? We're just like in this capitulation period, right? We're like, oh man, this sucks. This is not what I signed up for. This is not the vision that I bought into. I got really excited when I got into the cryptocurrency, and all I see is just fear, fear, fear. This is not cool. Yeah, I get that. I get that when you see things like what the market's been doing, when you see like how people are talking about it, it's just not fun, right? It's draining. You look at your blockfolio and you're just like, man, this is just not. I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. I've like I got into this space. I was really excited, maybe by the price, maybe by the technology. You can be honest with yourself. But nowadays, it's like, why am I still in this space? I don't understand that anymore. All I do is watch the price go down or just go sideways, and it's just not fun anymore. So obviously, we temper our disappointment and our just overall malaise of our lives with some memes, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, it does distract us from the overall just what's going on right now. And it kind of is like a pacifier, a crutch for acknowledging what is really happening. It's easy to buy in and laugh at these, stupid little memes, and it's easy to laugh off market moves or, try to suppress the fear inside your soul. But at the end of the day, we have to remind ourselves to chill the F out because at the end of the day, we are investing in the future. And I want to make sure that you guys understand that every time you look at your blockfolio, you look at CoinMarketCap, you read the news about crypto, you get the Twitter updates, all that stuff. You have to look at the larger time frame, the larger perspective of things, and that's what I'm here to talk about. So here's a couple of reasons why I'm just totally not even concerned about what's going on in the market right now because I'm not really shaken by it, and to this day, I'm still not really convinced by what's been going on in the market in terms of the fundamental reasons for the downturn or anything like that. And we'll cover a little bit of that. But But here's a couple reasons that I feel we shouldn't really care. For one, Bitcoin reward halving is still, it's less than a year away, and that's pretty cool. I know that's one of the things that people often point to, and maybe it is a little bit over, I don't know, oversold in its impact, the potential impact to the future price. But that's okay. It's still going to be a catalyst for less mining rewards, more scarcity in the overall Bitcoin network. There's a great Medium article here that I've linked to, and I quote a little bit from in the slide about how why Bitcoin has value, and it's primarily because of scarcity. Um, it's a really good analysis, and it goes into like stock to flow and why. Okay, maybe Bitcoin will be 50K in May 2020. What I'm not going to do in this entire presentation is talk about a specific price point. I know I talked about 20K in the thumbnail. I believe it will go up to that point, but I'm not going to do that in any sort of time frame. It's got to take its time to get there, but that's okay. We'll talk about that a little bit more. What's also clear to me is that when we talk about the Bitcoin halving, I think it is still getting priced in, and certainly in the context of we just had the back launch. Here, move to this one, where we did see a little bit of there's a market implosion, and perhaps it was back, perhaps it was a couple other factors, but that doesn't matter because at the end of the day, this was a successful launch. It moves the space forward. It was priced in a year ago, or it was announced a year ago, and we've gone through multiple delays and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's out there, it's working. There are contracts on the back platform. Cool. I think it's a step forward. Everybody seems to be so disappointed, and I don't understand why. It's a institutional step forward for the space. It is a vote of confidence by ICE. I couldn't ask for anything better. And for it to not be doing billions of transactions on day one, what were you expecting? Of course not. It's got to take its time to matriculate. Right now, a lot of attention is on the stock market and the overall equity space. Of course, there's not going to be this just massive surge into the Bitcoin space because we're not in 2017 again. Go look back at the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones throughout the course of 2017 and chart that against the overall crypto space. And I think that will tell you a great story as to why, obviously ICOs were a big piece of it. And you might argue whales and Tether, but I argue that it's more to do with the overall market and how it influenced the crypto space because there was just uncertainty in the stock market in 2017. People started to move into the crypto space. We're not seeing that right now as it needs to move the space forward, the crypto space. Right now, there's a lot of confidence, justified or unjustified, in the stock market. So people are more concerned with that. So obviously, there's not going to be as much volume rushing into Bitcoin on backed day one, but that's okay. It's live. It's going to continue to be live, and that's really cool. So let's move on to a couple more. Another thing I kept seeing was this hash flash crash of the hash rate of Bitcoin. And man, that's another one where it's just like totally overblown, totally oversold in its impact to the price and what happened. I don't buy this at all. And this was also talked about in another article I linked here, where it's not so concerning to see this 1 day drop because really, do you really think that 30% of the Bitcoin network just like unplugged because, I don't know, just they agreed to do so? No, it was probably because there were some network issues or some sort of glitch in the system of, the mining pool or something. I don't know. We can speculate all day, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because just to see a 1 week, or sorry, a 1 day flash crash like this doesn't really indicate any sort of potential negative, I don't know, state for the network. I would be more concerned, and it's talked about a little bit here, if there was a trend to the downside. But we are clearly trending upwards with the hash rate, and I think that will only continue to be the case as we move towards the halvening. So you can see a lot of these points kind of intersect with each other. I just this was definitely oversold, and I hope that you can kind of see through the BS on this point and why it was just between this and backed. Like I just don't buy it. I think this is completely against what we need to be paying attention to. Another thing is that the network fundamentals are still solid, guys. Nothing has changed, and we go through this every time the market goes down. We are still in a great period. Hash rate is still at its all-time high, even with the recent crash. Daily on-chain transaction volume, block size metrics, they're all great. We are doing better than ever with the Bitcoin network because there's been a consolidation around it. Yes, there's obviously things that can improve. Obviously, everyone is not happy with the state of development with the Bitcoin network or where it's going or layer two. I don't want to really get into that. What's important to me is that the overall crypto space has consolidated around solid projects that are pushing the space forward. We've gotten out of the ICO phase for the most part, and we're moving towards more maturity. We're moving towards, I don't want to say institutionalization, but this space is getting recognized more and more as a potential hedge, a potential alternative. It's going to take its time to grow up and be that, but it's there. We are being recognized for what we potentially possess. I saw that as like on display a couple of weeks ago when I was in Singapore, seeing 5G and IoT and AI and blockchain all represented on the same conference floor with each other, and imagining the intersectionality between those different, emerging innovation platforms. That to me is just so exciting. The potential of that, to see what does AI plus IoT plus blockchain look like? How do we, when we ask the question, how do we get 3 billion more users on the, on blockchain, using blockchain as a, participant in blockchain networks? I don't just look at that as human users. I look at that as devices, as machines paying each other, as this new machine economy. So, I don't want to get like too high in the sky here, guys, but I want to make sure that it's clear that we are trending in the right direction in terms of usage, in terms of development. Yes, it's hard to see like the long-term perspective here, especially after we kind of stumbled out of 2017, and last year was definitely just, where do we go? That was the question that kept getting asked. I think now we're starting to see that answer more and more as there's more uncertainty in the overall global markets, as there's more uncertainty in the state of the economy and the machinations behind it. And there's a need for a more trusted solution, a more decentralized or at least hybrid solution that percolates throughout the entire global economy. There's just these intrinsic problems with our system today. And yeah, blockchain isn't there yet to be able to replace it in any stretch of the imagination. I'm not here to say that Bitcoin is about to be the new world order, but it's a step in the right direction. And that to me is one of the most important things here. So that's why I want to capitalize on this slide. Price does not equal value. This was all written by Pomp, so this is, you can tell it's really good, but it's very on point as to where we are today. Bitcoin isn't a trade. It isn't a 1 day, a 1 week, 1 month, or even a 1 year type outlook. It's a multi-decade trend that will build momentum slowly. As I said at the beginning of this stream, you're investing in the future. If your investment horizon is anything lower than 5 years, of course you're going to be disappointed by, downside moves like what we've seen this week. But that's why I'm not really concerned. It could go down to 3,000. I'd still not be concerned because the overall impact, or the overall trend is still intact. The overall impact of the technology is still, being shaken out. We've still yet to see the beginning of this space, really, in my opinion. We're still in the innovation stage. So, yeah, of course, it takes patience. It takes a lot of guts and insight to see the future like that. And maybe it won't play out like we all hope. It'll be different. I don't really care. What I care about is that this space represents an innovation ethos. It represents where things are going, not exactly how they're going to happen, but definitely the trend. It's part of that. And that's why I continue to be a part of the space, even as it changes day by day, because I know that 5 10, 15 years from now, yeah, it won't look the same. That's basically guaranteed. But I know that it will influence what comes next, and that is important. So yeah, definitely, I would recommend pausing this slide or reading through this because this is really well done. But moving along, this is another thing I want to capitalize on. I'll read this through verbatim because I think it's important for you guys. Warren Buffett, who I know is not a Bitcoin advocate, but he is definitely someone you need to respect for his investing sense. He laid out a quiz in 1997 to Berkshire Hathaway stockholders. And if you can honestly pass the quiz, you'd be on your way to being well in the stock market. But most investors and most financial advisors will fail this little quiz. And that's one of the reasons most people are poor investors. As he wrote, if you plan to eat hamburgers throughout your life and you're not a cattle producer, would you wish for higher or lower prices of beef? Likewise, if you're going to buy a car from time to time, but you're not an auto manufacturer, which should you prefer higher or lower car prices? These questions, of course, answer themselves. But now for the final exam. If you expect there to be a net saver during the next 5 years, should you hope for a higher or lower stock market during that period? Most investors get this one wrong. Even though they're going to be net buyers of stocks for many years to come, they are elated when prices rise and depressed when they fall. In effect, they rejoice because the prices have risen for the hamburgers and they'll soon be buying. This reaction makes no sense. Only those who will be sellers of equities or stock market investments in the near future should be happy at seeing stock markets rise. Prospective purchasers much prefer sinking prices. Just take some time to think about that, guys, because I think this is where you need to be if you want to transcend this sort of, oh man, things are going up. Yay, I'm happy. Oh man, things are going down. I'm sad. That is the mark of an amateur investor or trader. To me, it's much more about having a system, much more having the long-term perspective in mind if you're an investor, or if you're a trader, then speculatively looking at the market and going against the herd, as Doc often says. So, this is also capitalized in a couple more quotes here from Kenneth Fisher and John Bogle, two big heroes of mine. It's basically that no one knows where the market's going to go, but that's okay because you have to, as long as you have a system in mind, as long as you stick to your guns and, you're going in with a plan, that's going to help you do way better than anybody else out there. So where do we go from here? Specifically around Bitcoin. This was these are just kind of recycled from a presentation I gave 2 months ago, but I think it's still relevant. The opportunity cost of holding Bitcoin grows day by day, especially as the long-term outlook for conventional asset classes looks more bleak. You can't withdraw your money as cash. You have two choices. You could deal with negative interest rates or you could spend your money. That's in reference to how we've been trending towards negative interest rates. One of the things I think is going to dominate the next couple decades. It's just a central bank race to the bottom. Central planners are playing with fire and are inviting a currency catastrophe. That's where we are. The wealthy among us know how to avoid this problem. Accumulation of assets, real estate, gold, silver, and for the past decade, cryptocurrency. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are possibly the perfect antidotes to this killer combo of negative interest rates and just a runaway global economy that just is based on debt. Debt is the new money. So that's where I think we are right now, especially as we look at Bitcoin. It has store of value characteristics similar to gold. It has spending characteristics similar to cash, and it has growth characteristics similar to of a new technology. That to me is what represents what Bitcoin is, where it will go, why it's still a tremendous investment, even if in the short term we see volatility and downturns like we've seen in this week. The overall trend is intact. The overall impact is still yet to be determined. And that's why I think it's still something that is it's undervalued for what it represents. So before we go on and take some of your questions, I do want to mention that we talk about this stuff every day in our Omnia group. It's an all-you-can-eat service where you get our classes, you get our newsletter, you join our Discord, all for one price. And we're really proud of what we've put together. And it's only going to continue to be even better as we add new team members, as we add more content, more classes, as we expand, because we're not going away. We're in here for the long haul. We've always been about the longer trend, as this presentation should hopefully demonstrate. And guys, for us, this is so important because we want to push the space forward. We want to do things right. We want to have a community that is based on trust and honesty in a space that is, well, inherently trustless or, based on a trustless technology. So for us, Omnia and Ready Set Crypto represent that. That's what we want to build. That's what we have built. And that's what we will continue to support and continue to build out in the future. So guys, thanks so much for sticking around. That really long presentation. I think that was longer than 5 to 10 minutes. So I appreciate that. So now I'll get into your questions. I just really appreciate you guys sticking around. All right, what we got? So, wow, we got a lot of people on. This is awesome. Yeah, all you can do is diversify. I totally agree with that. It's in the context of, a lot more assets out there too. So just, I know there's this temptation to go like all in on Bitcoin, but you have to be more market agnostic than that. What else you guys got? 40K Xmas Day. That'd be good. I would love that. What portfolio allocation do you have? Bitcoin 80%. That's, I guess in this day and age, yeah, we've gotten to a point where Bitcoin rules about 60 to 70% of the market, depending on what tracker you're looking at. So it's not a bad idea to kind of mirror that in terms of the market dominance. Yeah, of course, guys. Thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate your time. And I created this channel because it was 2017 at the time, and yeah, all you could see on Bitcoin about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency on YouTube at the time was BitConnect and all these scams. And I thought this space is too damn important for that kind of stuff. This technology is going to do so much more than prop up a Ponzi scheme. So, I wanted to make something that I would want to watch. And so from the start, and we've never, ever broken this, we never took ICO payments or anything like that, which I will tell you was kind of hard based on, 2017 prices. But I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the convictions that we continue to run our channel and our service by. So yeah, I'm thank you guys for sticking around. I love talking to you guys. Um, what's special about Bitcoin? That's a great question, actually. Maybe masked in a simple one, but I think it's important. Quite simply, I'll go back to those 3 points I made right at the end of the presentation. It has spending characteristics of money, it has asset characteristics like gold, and it has future technology potential that kind of transcends, it can become something more. So there's many more reasons, there's many more ways you can shake it out, but that to me is pretty succinct. Awesome, Rinky. Thanks for being around. Let me know what video was the first one you subscribed to. There's some back in 2017 that weren't so good, so I appreciate it if you were around then. Um, Chicken Tikas 5 coins. Oh yeah, I'm not. I also make a point try not to talk about other content producers, but just do your research and Google people's names if you want to make sure they're a scam or not. And that's all I have to say. Do you think Bitcoin is already an international currency? If you're talking about being recognized as something like the euro or the USD, yeah, maybe eventually, or maybe it doesn't need that. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of implications to that question, so that can get really deep or shallow. I don't know. Um, think about the multi-year winter for altcoin season. Okay, definitely we have to address alts every video, and it's important because I have alts. You guys have alts probably too. Um, yeah, it's where we are right now with altcoins is we are still in development cycle. We're still in speculation land. Bitcoin itself is moving into utility value, and it just represents the space right now. Altcoins outside the, I don't know, top 20 or so, they're fighting to stay alive right now. They're fighting for relevance. They're fighting to continue to not run out their burn rate and all that sort of stuff. It's tough. I've talked to a lot of project teams recently, and they're doing the best they can. But yeah, there's a lot of projects out there that are going under, for good or bad, And yeah, it's going to take some time. So once we see a reversal in terms of more attention to the space, yeah, I could see it. I don't think we'll ever get back to this land of coin speculation hype out of control. Nor should we, in my opinions. I think we will be more dominated by legitimate raises, legitimate capital formation. That's why I've been from the start so bullish on SEOs. That's going to take years, but that's for a good reason. It needs its time to matriculate and grow up. So, anyways, yeah, I would be short term bearish on alts right now, but that's not to say that they're bad or they're never coming back. But for right now, it's Bitcoin's market and a couple other coins market, and you can see that large caps dominate right now. Small caps, mid caps just don't. And I want to trade what's doing well. So, all right, let's see. Oh, sub because of the intro music. Guys, I have such a hard time because I can't replace that music. It's just so good. Let's see. Sell your second kidney. Well, if you don't have any kidneys, that's probably a problem. So maybe rethink that one. Crypto Don Juan, that guy's great. Thanks, man. I appreciate you sticking around. Yeah, yeah. We'll see what happens in 2020. I think every year sort of has its own theme. This year has been characterized by kind of return to the norm. We're kind of back to 2015, maybe sort of, in terms of expectations and just overall hype for the space. It's just in a lull right now, and that's probably good and bad. But for the most part, I think that's a net positive. We're out of the land of unsubstantiated hype, and we're into more looking for utility value, building things. The conventions I've been to recently have just been really substantive, which is awesome to see. I love seeing that. I hate seeing Lambos and girls in bikinis and that sort of thing. It's like, okay, that's fun, but at the same time, it's like this space has to be bigger than that. So okay, is quantum computing a threat? No, quantum computing is not a threat. That is definitely. I get the notion that Google just they just got quantum supremacy. Ooh, but if you actually look into it, like the cost of it, the where we are right now with quantum computing, I would say it's decades away from being a real genuine threat to blockchain. And by then, blockchain is going to evolve too. So yeah, it's an interesting theoretical, but like take some time and actually look into quantum as it relates to the potential threat to it's not out there to just be this like hash rate monster because that's how it seems to get painted as, or it's going to break blockchain or something like that. No, that's not how it works. What it does do is help us solve like these really hard problems, impossibly hard problems. That's what it's being tasked to. So anyways, what's the best time to utilize the time in the space without getting distracted by the over goal? What is the goal? That's a great question. I love that question. Our goal right now is to serve as a hedge against the global markets, to continue to push innovation forward, to continue to build, and prove the legitimacy of blockchain and integrate it, do some intersectionality with other emerging innovation platforms, like I mentioned. I want to see what it looks like when we have, a totally automated factory with a bunch of those like Amazon robots running around, and they're all talking to each other using a decentralized mesh network, and then they're uploading via 5G to some sort of blockchain supply chain. That's all getting organized by some sort of AIoT mastermind, and then it's getting loaded on automated ships, and it's getting, that's just cool. We can like we're years away from that happening, obviously, but I think that's the potential of this space is not to think of it like, Libra is going to give this space legitimacy. We're only going to get ahead when we get, a bunch of people using wallets. I hate to be a little bit bearish or contrarian on that point, but to me, you'll never have mass adoption in a space when literally the second thing you have someone do when they're signing up is say, okay, write down these seed phrases or you lose everything. Because your grandma's not going to do that. Uh, no one is going to want to do that if they value not losing their money. So we need to have a better user experience in the space. We need to have better intersectionality with other emerging innovation platforms. That's just where we are right now. We're just building a better user experience. That I think is the goal right now. So yeah, um, BlockFi is cool. I met BlockFi at Consensus this year. They're one of many in that kind of space, but yeah, what they're doing lending, and I know they're coming out with like a credit card that is like crypto based or a debit card. I forget which. But yeah, they're doing cool stuff. They're sort of like Celsius too. It's like they're pushing financial services integrated with blockchain, and I think that's cool. Yeah, they're obviously making money from it, and they're treating it like a business. So they're going to be doing some, they're doing financial stuff. But yeah, I think that's important for us. I think it's important to have some of these ancillary services to bridge the gap between the legacy financial systems and what we can offer with the blockchain financial system. So that's really cool. That's why I've been a big proponent of DeFi, even if I'm not a fan of the current iteration of DeFi. I think it can be way better. Anyways, wow, we got a lot of people on. This is so cool. All right. Does anyone else have any other major questions? I'm getting a little bit, I'm a little under the weather right now, so I'm starting to lose my voice. Privacy. Okay, so my opinion is that, and this is just my opinion, privacy should be a protocol, or it should be part of the overall package, but it shouldn't be the defining characteristic of a coin. That's not to say that coins like Monero are bad or anything like that. I just believe that that's going to lead to tension with regard to regulators and institutions and all this sort of stuff. It's okay for Monero to do what it does and be a privacy first coin. I'd much rather see privacy be an option because that is more frictionless with the overall state of things, just the way money works right now. I think, if you really look at it, if you really look at the overall macro perspective of things, at the end of the day, what gives a government power? Its ability to collect taxes. With privacy coins, you could potentially obfuscate your tax, like transactions, taxable transactions. You could potentially hide money from the government. And that starts to get into a little bit questionable, controversial. And I just think for that reason, privacy coins are always going to be sort of antithetical to how governments operate. At this point, they're so small that they're just not enough in the crosshairs. I don't know. But at the same time, I think privacy is a right. It is something that we should never give away, like forthwith. So I would like it to be an option always, but not the defining characteristic of something like a Bitcoin or an Ethereum. So I could be wrong on that. That's just my opinion. I'm not trying to force that opinion down, but I think that's important to look at the overall perspective on things. So in a world, yes, it's not fully fungible. So I get that. Like it's not a fully fleshed out opinion because I it is controversial. There's no right or wrong with as it relates to privacy. So that's why I've tried not to be a staunch opponent or you know against privacy. I'm just kind of taking a middle of the road as much as I can on that because I want there to be privacy, but at the same time there needs to be open public blockchains as well. So yeah, okay, sorry. Let's see. Paper Bitcoin. Yeah. Where we are right now with futures in the short term, I think it is going to be a little bit, there's going to be some friction. Long term, I think it is good for the space. I've talked about in the past the potential of, yeah, paper Bitcoin or, my original concerns with Backed was that they're going to do what's called rehypothecation and commingling, which is basically making up Bitcoin and, doing like fake Bitcoin on top of real Bitcoin and trading that because that's what Wall Street does. And rehypothecation is just, you get layers and layers and layers of yeah. That's what led to the housing crisis. Is we had subprime loans that just yeah, it was bad. So we obviously want to avoid that with a space that values a deflationary currency that there's ever only going to be 21 million bitcoins. I get that, but you're not going to be able to prevent people from trading synthetic derivatives and that sort of stuff. So it's going to be a part of it. I don't know at this point what it's going to look uh, like in the short to midterm as it relates to as we see more and more of these futures platforms come out. What Backed and ErisX are going to do to Bitcoin, we just don't know. We've only seen 1 week of data for Backed, and yeah, it's been bad, but we'll see. But I do like that there's more options coming into space. So yeah, let's see. Cool. Yeah, potentially. I keep seeing 7,200. I'm not going to sit here and look at charts. I'm going to look at this from a more fundamental perspective. And for me, the fundamentals are still intact. There's nothing that is preventing Bitcoin from going higher other than market speculation and fear. And just, again, it's the overall space that we need to keep in mind. It's not just, it's not just Backed. It's not just the hash rate. It's the larger markets. So yeah, avoiding my question. I'm sorry, Luke. All right. Does Bitcoin not limit the amount of transactions to 10,000 per block? Which takes 30 minutes. How can this? Let's see. Well, Visa and MasterCard don't do that in a second. It's there's the impression of that, but the Swift network and ACH and all that sort of stuff takes days, like really long. So instant settlement is definitely the goal. We're not there yet, obviously, but that's it's that blockchain trilemma of fast, cheap, secure. And Vitalik has been on record to say that it's impossible to get all three. I don't know if that's really true, but you can get a spectrum of all three. It's definitely one of the hardest problems in the blockchain space. So we'll get there. But that's progress and innovation. It's going to take time. But yeah, to say that Visa and MasterCard just invalidate what blockchain represents, I think is missing the point of what blockchain represents. Visa and MasterCard are charging egregious fees for access to a inherently slow network that is only sort of accepted in some places, not everywhere. And again, they charge fees. I mean, if you're paying cash, you're paying to subsidize my Visa transaction and the airline miles that I get and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's not an ideal network, and I think people are starting to wake up to that. So options, people getting options, just there being a more fluid network, a more diversified network is important. So, okay, how do I store my Bitcoin? I use LedgerX. I also have experimented with multi-sig wallets. I like those too. It's a spectrum between convenience and security. I go more towards security. So yeah, that's why I keep all my stuff off exchanges. I go with hard wallets and cold wallets as much as I can. So cool. All right, guys, I'm losing my voice at this point, and you know me, I need my voice. So, but guys, I really appreciate you sticking around. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Again, it's been a pleasure. It's an honor and a privilege to be on here with you guys. And we'll see you next week. Yeah, hopefully the markets do something this weekend, but we'll see. And we'll be back here next week to talk about it. So, guys, thanks for hanging around. We'll see you next week.